Yo, I'm Silverslayer56, the current rank 1 Zariel main globally, and I'm coming at you here with 5 underrated tips and tricks to add to your playstyle in Brawlhalla. All of the tips you're going to see in this video will be usable for you regardless of what legend you play. This video is going to be a bit different than the classic Brawlhalla guides you may be used to seeing on YouTube, because the pointers I'm going to give you are going to be strictly mechanical, and by that I mean these are physical options that you have in-game that can be integrated into any playstyle with practice. I am 100% sure that you will see chances to use each and every one of these tricks in-game, and that you will be happy you learned them as you continue to improve. These are all tricks in-game that I have learned to utilize constantly in my over 2,500 in-game hours of playing, all of which contribute to my current capabilities as a Valhallan and top 100 player globally. Each pointer I give will be accompanied by various clips that I've gathered myself showcasing the usefulness of said pointer. Although I haven't used timestamps in videos before, I've always wanted to say this, so here it goes. All timestamps will be in the description below, and without further delay, let's get into the tips and tricks. The first thing that I'm going to touch on is proper utilization of exhausted recoveries. For newer players, an exhausted recovery is a secondary recovery with less momentum that you can use in the air in place of one of your jump options by pressing the recovery button after your normal recovery has been expended. Now, I'm sure that the majority of people watching this video have at least heard of the exhausted recovery option at some point or another, but I'm also confident that the majority of you do not use exhausted recoveries regularly as a part of your playstyle. From someone who does use this option almost every game, I can say that using an exhausted recovery instead of a jump option has been the determining factor in whether or not I take a stock, lose a stock, or even win a game. Due to this option being underutilized at all skill levels, I can say that there are even plenty of Valhallan and professional players that I have caught off guard when I throw out an exhausted recovery instead of a jump. Certain weapons have more threatening exhausted recoveries than others, and I would even go to say that some exhausted recoveries are better than others. For example, blasters have a high risk, high reward exhausted recovery, having a travel distance further than a standard jump along with high active frames. But keep in mind that high active frames also means the opponent has more time to prepare for a punish. Unarmed recovery is extremely fast and has a similar travel distance to a jump, essentially acting as a jump with a hitbox that has decent priority. Bow and Scythe have pretty pathetic travel distance with their exhausted recovery options if I'm honest, but sizable hitboxes that make them still viable. Axe, Greatsword, and Cannon all have huge recoveries and exhausted recoveries that will easily catch even the most skilled players off guard from time to time. I could go on, but I'll let you figure out the rest for yourself. The moral here is, exhausted recoveries are a very underrated option that I highly suggest you integrate into your playstyle. You will likely find them to save you in tough situations various times upon use, and I promise you won't regret adding this option to your kit and to your mind. Try to mix them up with jumps. Using one or the other too often can get predictable, especially past diamond level. Just like everything else in Brawlhalla, learning this will take some practice, but I don't think it'll be too difficult for you. You got this. Up next, I'm going to be talking about ground pounds. Oddly enough, despite their name literally being ground pound, just about nobody ever actually uses them on stage, and if you don't, it's your loss to be honest. While not all ground pounds may be super easy to use on stage, on numerous weapons they are either extremely fast, such as sword and katars, or cover an area where your opponent wouldn't otherwise be safe if ground pound didn't exist, such as unarmed and bow. From what I have seen, an extremely small percentage of players actually consider onstage ground pounds as a viable option, and therefore don't even think about the possibility of their opponent using that option. In a number of cases, you may also find onstage ground pound to be the best punish option damage-wise and or for positional advantage. Certain ground pounds even have follow-up potential when used on stage, which could lead to one or more hits if you react or capitalize properly. If you play Gauntlets, Axe, or Cannon, you no doubt need to start using this option ASAP. Steerability of Gauntlet's ground pound makes this an insane onstage option that most people will not be expecting, and Axe ground pound is just stupidly large and hits everywhere around you. Cannon and blasters have gimmicky ground pounds, allowing you to stall or bounce in ways your opponent might not be expecting. Spear is also on my list with strong onstage ground pounds as well, as even the best of players will get caught by an occasional upside down helicopter moving at them no faster than Queen Nai. There is only one weapon that I would truly advise against using an onstage ground pound with, and that is Hammer, because you already have down air with plenty of force and active frames covering the exact same area. I'm not perfect by any means at Brawlhalla though, so maybe you could find a way to prove me wrong. It never hurts to experiment. This next little trick is just about the most aggressive thing a player can do when on the wall. This is some tech that I bet you've seen before, likely on Mordex as shown in this first clip, but many people don't realize that just about every legend can take advantage of this in one way or another. That, of course, is using a gravity cancel signature to fight your way back on stage. Once players reach a certain level of familiarity with Brawlhalla, they tend to understand how far away from the edge of the stage to stand when their opponent is on the wall. Quick signatures with decent horizontal range can do well to catch a player by surprise in this scenario, since they may have let their guard down thinking they are safe for the moment, while waiting for you to make a move since they technically don't have to. I personally catch opponents with this all of the time, with Zarya Gauntlet's side sig, as you will see in multiple of the clips here, but I could name you so many different legends that have access to this tech. If you could get a good read on your opponent's grounded habits while you're on the wall, whether that's a predictable jumping pattern or just standing still, it will be much easier to catch someone with a gravity cancelled sig than you might think. Keep in mind though, spending a gravity cancel does mean that you'll be out of a dodge, so this can be quite risky against certain weapons and in certain scenarios. It is super important to mix up your tendencies in Brawlhalla, especially when in disadvantaged state, since that's when you're most prone to damage. Adding a suppressive tactic to your current style of play will benefit you, especially once you learn when it's best to use it and when it's best to opt for a different option. Try it out on your favorite legends. I am quite confident that you will be able to find a way to use this tech that even some of the best players of your favorite legend are not utilizing. There is still so much unexplored tech waiting to be revealed in Brawlhalla. Maybe you could be the one to discover the next big thing. This next tip is definitely the most difficult to learn and properly use of the 5 tips and tricks, but it can still be extremely useful nonetheless, with the ability to score you some really early stocks and potentially save you when you have no options left. Similar to the previous tip, this involves using a gravity cancelled signature off stage, but in a different manner than as an aggressive tool used to get back to stage. During an offstage interaction, most opponents only tend to consider the classic aerial option that your weapon kit has, being Nair, Sair, Dare, Recovery, and Ground Pound. If you mix up your options and decide to use a well-placed gravity cancelled signature, I'd say there's a good chance that this will catch your opponent off guard, at very least the first time you do it. Doing so can give you plenty of space, allowing you to regain stage control, straight up KO if they are damaged enough, or potentially put your opponent in a very unfavorable position early on in a stock. But here's the catch. If you miss, you better be ready for them to come at you off stage. A burn dodge against most weapons off stage can lead to a really bad situation for you, so it's important that you space any sig you use off stage as well as you possibly can. It's extra risky to use this tech against weapons that can capitalize well off stage, including Scythe, Gauntlets, and Katars, so definitely try it especially carefully against those weapons. Occasionally though, desperate times require desperate measures, and there are cases when using a gravity cancelled sig will be your saving grace if you have no options left except for a dodge when trying to get to the wall. Many players will try to confirm with the raw ground pound in such a scenario, so sometimes your only chance of survival is with one of these offstage sigs. Don't believe me? Here's a clip of Pavelski using this tech to win a game during the major tournament Combo Breaker Online of 2020.
Ooh, dodge through the weapon toss.
That was so close. If that connected, that would have been the game right there. The windmill coming down off on the wall. Pavelski, can he get
no, Hermanson!
Oh no! Why? Again, the game's starting.
Last but certainly not least, I want to talk about how to best use some of Unarmed's kit in the most beneficial ways for you, specifically surrounding the move Downlight. It's no secret that Unarmed D-Light is a go-to option for most players when unarmed, being quick and having decent damage potential since it has a large number of follow-ups. Oftentimes, people would choose one of the possible follow-ups and learn to only use that one follow-up instinctively, which is unfortunately not the optimal route to take. The most common and most practical follow-ups off of Unarmed D-Light include Nair, Sair, Recovery, and Ground Pound. Of these, Ground Pound does the most damage, so regardless of whether on or off stage, the majority of users tend to opt for Ground Pound. I would in fact argue that, in most onstage scenarios, following D-Light with Nair is the most optimal thing to do when your opponent is in white or yellow health, since it creates plenty of space for you to go pick up a weapon. This move also has the most active frames of all of your follow-ups, allowing you to stall the game for an extra half second while waiting for a weapon to spawn. You can also pivot your Nair after D-Light to send the opponent in the opposite direction, potentially creating even more space for you to control the stage. If you catch your opponent on the lip of the stage with D-Light, however, sending them down with ground pound is almost always the best option, maximizing damage and space created. When your opponent has no dodge, following up D-Light with ground pound or recovery followed by Nair or jump Nair, depending on their damage percentage, is a solid option to go for, maximizing the amount of damage possible in that moment. You can also go for reads off of D-Light ground pound, which is safest to do when you have a decent lead in the game in case you do miss your read. When going for D-Light unarmed, try to think about the scenario you're in and which option will be best to put you at an advantage. You have multiple options to think about, so don't just stick to one. Mix things up and try to take the advantage. Hey there, 56 here. I just wanted to take a moment off the script to thank you for watching this video. This video took me a really long time to make, and it was tedious a little bit because I'm still learning to edit and all that, but overall, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and most importantly, I hope you end up getting something out of this video. I plan to make more guides like this at some point in the future. I'm not sure when that will be, because this project took me a while and I might want to take a break from doing all that sort of stuff. I will definitely still be pumping out casual content, but I might take a break from guide-style videos because, to be honest, it was pretty taxing mentally to learn all this stuff, and fortunately, for next time, I will have all the tools I need to get it done. Definitely leave a comment if you can, letting me know what you want to see in the future. I do hope to make a couple more mechanical guides like this in the future. I do want to make an ultimate dodging guide at some point. I think that would be really useful for a lot of players who are struggling with dodging, which unfortunately I hear is a pretty common issue, so that could be on the way in the future. But yeah, I really appreciate the support. If you could leave me any sort of feedback, that would be amazing. I value comments over pretty much all other types of feedback, strictly because it can help me improve my channel and help me become a better content creator. So yeah, that's about it. Once again, I really appreciate you watching. Let me hear your feedback in the comments if you have any, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.